Peru, José Jeri, previously head of Congress, has been sworn in as President of the Republic following the removal from office of former President Dina Boluarte. Colombian President Gustavo Petro demands that the United States government publish the list of names of those killed by its warships in the Caribbean. And the Israeli occupation army begins the gradual retreat from the Gaza Strip towards the east, emphasizing that it will complete its withdrawal from the city of Gaza within 24 hours. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. News from Peru. Congress approved the impeachment of President Dina Boluarte in the grounds of permanent moral incapacity. After the vote exceeded the two-thirds majority required by the Peruvian constitution, Congress approved the vacancy motion. Boluarte refused to appear before Congress after her legal representative, Juan Carlos Portugal, argued that the defense period did not meet the minimum and essential requirements. Following the removal from office of former Peruvian President Dina Boluarte, José Jeri, previously head of the Peruvian Congress, has been sworn in as President of the Republic. In accordance with Article 115 of the Constitution, due to the absence of vice presidents in Peru, the President of the Congress assumes interim leadership of the country. Jeri assumed the presidency of the Republic early this Friday after the plenary session of Congress failed to approve the motion of censure brought against the Parliament's Board of Directors, which he chairs. Jeri becomes the third president of the current five-year term from 2021 to 2026 after Pedro Castillo and Dina Boluarte. Now let's learn about José Jeri, who recently assumed the presidency of the Republic of Peru. Legislator José Enrique Jeri from the Somos Peru party was elected President of Congress for the 2025 to 2026 term after winning the election for the Executive Committee. Jeri's political career has been marked by investigations including allegations of sexual abuse, disobedience to authority, and alleged acts of corruption linked to the Budget Committee. According to Article 115 of the Constitution, if there are no vice presidents, the President of Congress assumes interim leadership of the country. Therefore, following the removal from office of ex-President Dina Boluarte, the presidency falls to José Jeri. In this same context, protests were held in front of the Ecuadorian and Brazilian embassies in Lima to prevent any attempt to grant asylum to former President Dina Boluarte. This protest arose after several congressmen warned about possible political asylum for the now former president, a situation that concerns citizens. In this regard, and in order to guarantee order and to prevent altercations, the National Police reinforced its deployment in the towns of San Isidro and Miraflores, where the embassies of Ecuador and Brazil are located, respectively. Meanwhile, members of parliament are calling on both governments not to give in to this maneuver, since this is not a matter of persecution, but rather an act of justice. And we go to Brazil. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva ranks first in voting intentions in all scenarios simulated by the Genial Quest polling company, with a view to the general elections in the South American giant in October 2026. The survey, conducted between October 2nd and 5th among over 2,000 people, revealed that Lula da Silva would easily win in a second round against all his main contenders. The current president would defeat opponents such as the governor of Sao Paulo, Tarcísio de Freitas, and former First Lady Michelle Bolsonaro. President Lula's strong electoral performance and growing popularity are driven by his stance towards the U.S. and his protection of the country's economy from Trump's tariffs and his defense of national self-determination. And Venezuela activated its governing bodies for comprehensive defense with the aim of guaranteeing peace and sovereignty in the national territory. From the state of Aragua, the Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, asserted that the United States continues to launch constant attacks against Venezuela under the excuse of a supposed war against drug trafficking. In this regard, the minister warned that the Donald Trump administration intends to steal the country's natural resources. Cabello reaffirmed the commitment of the Venezuelan people to defending their sovereignty in perfect military popular police unity against any threat to the peace of the nation. And in other information, in Argentina, trade unions, families of people with disabilities and retirees protested in the city of San Rafael de Mendoza in rejection of President Javier Milei's visit. The government ordered a security operation involving 700 officers with the aim of preventing the protests from reaching the event venue. During the event, there were moments of tensions between the protesters and the security forces, with pushing and verbal exchanges with supporters of the president, resulting in the arrest of the former provincial deputy for the Frente de Todos party, Bruno Seschin, and activists Maximiliano Londero and Sebastián Encina for putting up a poster criticizing the Argentine leader. And in Chile on Thursday began the eviction of the Dignidad camp located in a suburban community of the capital, Santiago. This land grab occurred after the October 2009 revolt, where nearly 200 families, both Chilean and migrant, live. The country is experiencing a housing deficit that exceeds 1 million homes and has 1,428 camps, the highest number since 1999. The operation does not provide a temporary solution for everyone, so many will end up on the streets. Furthermore, despite the residents' willingness to engage in dialogue, late in the afternoon, the police repressed them at the place where they were supposed to be for work and did not comply with the demolition limits. This situation will continue evolving in the coming days, with more than 400 eviction orders planned.
Hoy día pusimos prioridad.
Today, we have placed a priority on a risk area that is defined by 30 meters from the edge of the riverbank inward, and the purpose of this is to protect people from possible flooding. In addition, the way in which the houses were configured, the houses was creating a fire hazard, which is why we have defined this strip, and then we are going to sit down and talk to the families to try to discuss their rights.
And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Colombian President Gustavo Petro demanded on Thursday that the United States government publish the list of names of those killed by its warships in the Caribbean. The president stated that it is the responsibility of the U.S. government to determine the identities, nationalities, cargo, and destination of the victims. To date, the U.S. government has not identified the people who were on board the vessels that were attacked. However, it alleges that they were individuals presumably involved in drug trafficking. The Colombian president described the attacks on the ships as disproportionate and called the lethality murder. In Colombia, at least 9 people were injured on Thursday after an explosion in the town of Robles in the south of the country. According to the national police, the incident occurred after an attack by a dissident faction against a police station in the area. According to the authorities, 2 of the victims are girls aged 4 and 5 who were treated at the local hospital and then transferred to the Valle de Lili clinic in the city of Cali. The Cauca Valley, where Robles is located, is considered a strategic area for illegal armed groups that profit from coca leaf plantations and their connection to the port of Buenaventura on the Pacific coast. The Panamanian Parliament approved Bill 176, which creates the National Public Registry of Sex Offenders, amending Law 244 of 2021. The project was unanimously approved with 42 votes during the third debate and seeks to make the official registry of sexual offenders public, thus exercising situational crime prevention. According to the plenary, the system must contain all detailed information on people convicted or serving sentences for crimes against sexual freedom and integrity, child trafficking, and human trafficking for sexual exploitation. The legislative initiative seeks to improve the prevention of sexual crimes in the country, as well as to empower families and communities with a publicly accessible information network on the Internet. And in the United States, New York Attorney General Letitia James was charged with mortgage fraud in a federal court in the Eastern District of Virginia. James, who sued President Trump for fraud in a case that unfolded while he was running for president, was formally charged with bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution. The charge is based on the purchase of a house in Norfolk, where she signed a second home clause, which she was to retain for her use and enjoyment for 1 year. The case was brought by an attorney general who was a Trump senator, claiming that James rented the property to a family of 3. The misrepresentation enabled her to get favorable credit terms for investment properties. An offshore earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 7.6 hit southern Philippines provinces on Friday morning. Officials have ordered villagers to evacuate from nearby coastal provinces due to a possible tsunami. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology said it was expecting damage and aftershocks from the earthquake, which was centered at sea about 62 kilometers southeast of Manay town in Davao Oriental Province. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Honolulu said hazardous waves were possible with 300 kilometers of the epicenter. The Philippines is still recovering from a September 30th earthquake with a magnitude of 6.9 that left at least 74 people dead and displaced thousands of people in the central province of Cebu. And we have a second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. One short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. The Israeli Occupation Army announced this Friday the beginning of a gradual withdrawal from the Gaza Strip towards the east, emphasizing that it will complete its withdrawal from the Gaza city within 24 hours. According to Israeli sources, the 7th Regular Brigade and the 188th Armored Brigade have already left the Palestinian enclave, while the Etzioni Reserve Brigade began its withdrawal from Khan Yunis. Likewise, the withdrawal of combat units of the Golani Brigade and also other military units in the central and northern Gaza Strip was announced. According to the reports, the 72-hour deadline for Hamas to release Israeli captives will begin once Israeli troops are in place along the designated lines. These events occurred after a night of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza and Khan Yunis, which killed 4 people and left more than 40 missing. In this context, the former president of the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas, in the Gaza Strip and head of the negotiating delegation, Khalil al-Hajja, spoke about the Palestinian people's resistance and thanked supporters in the context of the confirmation of the first phase of the peace plan. Al-Hajja highlighted the Palestinian people's steadfast resistance to the hostilities and massacres perpetrated by the Israeli army on the anniversary of the start of the latest Israeli escalation against Palestine. The leader of the resistance movement paid tribute to his martyr leaders and fighters. The head of the movement also said that Hamas is serious about President's peace plan and offered a response that serves the Palestinian people. He thanked the Middle East for its continued support for the Palestinian people and those who advocate for the Palestinian cause. The Iranian Foreign Ministry stated as well that it supports any initiative that puts an end to the Israeli genocide in Gaza and demands the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and the withdrawal of the occupying forces. The Iranian Foreign Ministry emphasized in a statement that the Islamic Republic of Iran has always supported all actions and initiatives aimed at stopping the genocide, withdrawing the occupying forces and allowing humanitarian aid to enter, free Palestinian prisoners, and recognize the fundamental rights of the Palestinian people. Furthermore, it continued, defenders of the legitimate resistance of the Palestinian people in their struggle for the right to self-determination, and the note emphasized that over the last 2 years, the Persian country has used all its diplomatic resources, especially at the regional level, in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and in the United Nations, to pressure Israel and its allies to stop the genocide and achieve the withdrawal of the occupiers from Gaza. In Yemen, thousands of citizens also participated in massive marches in solidarity with the Palestinian community in the Gaza Strip. The demonstrations took place in more than 43 squares in the city of Saada, where participants reaffirmed their support for Palestine, highlighting the resistance that the Gaza people have been carrying out for more than 2 years. The protesters emphasized that the nation's duty is not limited to slogans, but also extends to action on the ground and in politics. In this context, Palestinian and Yemeni flags were waved, signaling the Palestinian people's ability to resist the Israeli siege and the determination of the Yemenis to remain allies in the struggle for the liberation of Gaza. In Russia, the Ministry of Defense accused Ukraine of destroying part of the Togliatti-Odessa ammonia pipeline near the settlement of Rosinjar in the Donetsk People's Republic. The explosion occurred as a result of an attack carried out by Ukrainian forces, causing ammonia to leak into the damaged area. The ministry also stated that the purpose of the explosion was to slow down the advance of the Russian army's offensive operations in the special military operations area. They also specified that there were no military casualties following the explosion, although the extent of the damage to the infrastructure is still being assessed. And the Chinese government has imposed new controls on the export of technologies and equipment related to rare earth, lithium, batteries, artificial graphite, and super hard materials. From Beijing, our correspondent Bruno Falsi brings us more details.
Greetings to everyone that's following us in teleSUR in English. I'm here now in Beijing to inform you that the Chinese government has announced export controls covering key sectors of the high-tech industry. According to the Ministry of Commerce, the measure targets items with distinct dual-use properties and aim to safeguard national security and interests, while fulfilling international obligations such as the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. The government also clarified that the controls are not directed at any specific country or region, and that legitimate export applications will be approved after review. The regulations impose controls on technologies related to the processing of rare earths, specific metals used in defense applications, and high-energy density lithium batteries for electric vehicles. They also include super hard materials such as synthetic diamonds used in semiconductor manufacturing. In addition, the government has listed 14 foreign companies, mainly specialized in anti-drone and analytical technologies, banning commercial transactions with China and new investments in Chinese territory. A ministerial spokesperson emphasized that China had previously informed the countries and regions involved and expressed its willingness to engage in communication and dialogue on export control policies through bilateral mechanisms. China accounts for roughly 70% of global rare earth extractions and nearly 90% of global processing. Amid growing tensions over access to strategic technologies between China and Western nations, we go back to the studios in La Habana, Cuba.
And after this report, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, we invite you to join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.